Reeves Immigration Law Group now brings you Immigration Law on Your Side.
Magandang gabi mga kababayan. Welcome to another Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. Atid po sa inyo ng Reeves Immigration Law Group. They have offices in San Francisco, in the Los Angeles area, and syempre dyan po sa Pilipinas and in China. And mga kaibigan, it's already the end of September. Napakabilis ng panahon and happy October sa inyong lahat. And the last quarter of the year is just around the corner. Bukas na mga kaibigan. And if you're watching and listening to us on our platforms na mga podcasts, the information that you'll be hearing today will be current as of today, the 30th of September, 2020. So mga kababayan, kasama na naman natin si Attorney Flomi Javier Diza ng Reeves Immigration Law Group. Bago tayo magsimula, kumustahin muna natin si Attorney. Attorney, magandang gabi po sa iyo.
Magandang gabi, Johan, at sa lahat ng mga viewers and listeners natin, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat din. At nasabi mo nga, nasa end of the month na tayo at kahapon, kagabi nga lang, may presidential debate. Unfortunately, hindi ho nila na-discuss ang immigration. So, inabangan po natin kung ano yung mga topics, but probably there are two more debates. At sana isa doon ang makita natin ang position ng mga presidential balls kung anong kanilang position sa immigration.
Tama. Well, anyway, nandito naman ang immigration law on your side, mga kababayan, para pag-usapan ang mga updates sa immigration. And like what we said, it's already October. Mamaya, mga kaibigan, towards the end of the program, on the other half of the program, we will be talking about the October 2020 Visa Bulletin. So abangan yan mga kaibigan, okay? So dyan lang po kayo. In any case, ang pag-uusapan po natin, like what we told you on Facebook just a few hours ago, we told you that we will be talking about safeguarding lawful permanent resident status during foreign travel. This is very timely because may mga kababayan tayo na hanggang ngayon ay nasa Pilipinas pa. Kung kayo po ay may green card at by this time ay nasa Pilipinas pa kayo, ibig sabihin medyo matagal na kayong nandyan sa Pilipinas at makinig po sa ating talakayan ngayong gabi because this applies to you most probably. So does travel outside the United States affect your permanent resident status? Well, permanent residents, mga kababayan, are free to travel in and out of the United States. And temporary or brief travel usually does not affect your permanent resident status. But with the pandemic, kakaiba ang sitwasyon ngayong taon mga kaibigan, many countries, including the Philippines, imposed mandatory quarantine and people cannot travel. So with us tonight here at Immigration Law on Your Side is Attorney Flomi Diza again para he's going to walk us through the process. Kung kayo po ay nasa labas pa ng United States ngayon, ano ba ang epekto nito sa inyo? So, Attorney, let's get right into the topic. So, how long do you have to stay outside of the United States to jeopardize your green card or your permanent resident status?
So ideally, ang travel as you mentioned, should be very brief, because you are now considered a lawful permanent resident of the United States. So hindi po Pilipinas. So brief in a sense na it should not exceed more than 6 months. Mahaba pa rin yun, Kuya Yo, but travel for more than 6 months, there's a presumption, rebuttable presumption that you abandon your green card, right? But traveling over a year, right, would cause yung abandonment ng green card po ninyo. So yun po yung mga ibatas, So especially now with the pandemic, we receive many emails and calls, sa mga nilang na-stuck sa Pilipinas because as you mentioned, kung nandun sila ng March, nauna actually ang Pilipinas nagkaroon ng quarantine kaysa sa US. Kasi I was emailing yung aming Facebook page that Makati office had already closed, due to the mandatory quarantine ng Metro Manila. At that time, we are still reporting sa opisina. So in other words, if you're there already, that you're able to come back, in many situations where you call the embassy, wala ring sumasagot dahil when you look at the website, ang sinasabi doon, they're only assisting US citizens, yun ang mga concerns nila. So, and they're saying that they are closed and nobody would be answering or responding to the questions or inquiries. So, yun yung mga paraan. Pero just in case na wala po kayong na hindi po kayo nakapag-file ng re-entry permit, I still believe that you are able to come back despite over 1 year na po kayo dyan or over 6 months na kayo dyan sa Pilipinas.
You mentioned the re-entry permit, attorney. Paano po ba ang isang lawful permanent resident magkakaroon ng re-entry permit? Saan po ba ito ina-apply? Is it do we apply this before we leave the United States?
Yeah, it should be applied before you leave the US. Kasi sa ating mga kababayan natin, you waited your green card for a very long time, di ba? Halimbawa, nasa US po kayo, and you waited for your priority date to become available only to find out na, hey, may naiwan pala akong family matters sa Pilipinas na kailangang i-resolve. Meron pala akong business dealings doon. I-close ko yung aking business or ibenta ko yung aking mga properties, or kagaya ngayon, or nagkaroon ng pandemic. So ano yung paraan kung alam po ninyo na magtatagal po kayo sa Pilipinas? As you mentioned, yung re-entry permit, ito po yung isang dokumento that allows you to stay in the Philippines or in your home country for a period of 2 years na hindi po kayo ma-charge ng abandonment ng green card. But as we mentioned, you need to apply this while you are in the United States kasi hindi po pwede yan i-apply habang nasa Pilipinas kayo. Now, it is also one of the requirements for the application ng re-entry permit that you have to have a biometrics appointment. So once you're in the US, apply for re-entry, wait for the biometrics, and you can leave even before the approval ng re-entry permit, right? So kasi ang processing time po ng re-entry permit takes about 3 to 6 months din or even longer.
Mahaba din pala.
Oo, with the pandemic. So what I advise sa mga kababayan natin na nagmamadali, sabi ko, okay, once you enter the US, you file natin kaagad, and then we request that your biometrics will be done right away dahil meron kayong, kailangan tapusin sa Pilipinas or mag-umpisa na yung classes, di ba? So you have to submit then yung proof that you're in school or you're taking care of an ailing, relatives. So do your biometrics, go home, right? And then once the what do you call this, the re-entry is approved, padadala naman sa US address ninyo, or pwede rin pick upin sa embassy actually, or pwede rin i-care off sa mga abogado ninyo. So once you get that approval, i-forward lang ho yan sa aplikante sa Pilipinas. And then with that re-entry permit, i-specify yung validity ng re-entries. It says valid from October 1, 2020 until October 1 of 2021. So nandun 2022. So good for 2 years po yan. So in other words, it will not affect yung green card po ninyo. So ang maganda pa nito mga kababayan is that pag meron po kayong hawak na re-entry permit and you decided na like say nasa Pilipinas na kayo ng 7 months, mag-attend kayo ng wedding ng kaibigan ninyo or you want to visit yung relatives dito or pasyal yung anak ninyo, you can use that re-entry permit. Let's say 7 months or 8 months kayo sa Pilipinas or 1 year and 2 months, you can also use that para wala na pong mga katanungan sa port of entry. Kasi kuya, ang problema dyan, kung wala kang re-entry permit, nag-exceed ka lang ng 6 months, ang daming tanong sa'yo, di ba? Or let's say nag-8 months ka sa Pilipinas. So the better choice is for you to apply for re-entry para walang tanong once you enter the United States. But also caution po natin sa mga gusto mag-citizen. Pag-usapan natin last episode natin that the re-entry permit, even if it's granted, hindi po kayo magkakaroon ng continuous physical presence. Right? So since 2 years kayo doon, mabe-break yung 5 years continuous presence nyo. So yung pagbuo ng 5 taon ulit would only start once you re-enter and make your US as your residence.
Wow. So medyo kailangang tutukan ito mga kaibigan at huwag basta-bastang aalis na walang re-entry permit if you already are a lawful permanent resident of the United States. As you know, attorney, sa kabaliktaran, noong Pilipino ka pa at kailangan mong magkaroon ng tourist visa, you have to prove your ties and all the things that you do in the Philippines para ma-prove na babalik ka sa Pilipinas. On the other hand, ngayong ikaw ay may green card na, you definitely have ties here in the United States. Meron ka na probably trabaho, yung pamilya mo nandito po sa Amerika, and then you're leaving for more than 6 months or 1 year, pupunta ka ng Pilipinas. Do you have to tell that to immigration na, hey, I really need a re-entry permit because I have work here or my family is here?
Correct. Yes, you need to establish that you have strong ties also in the US. Tama yung sinabi mo na baliktad ng sitwasyon,
Mhm.
But not only for purposes of re-entry but also for people who stayed in the Philippines or outside the US for over 6 months. So let's say hindi po kayo nag-file ng re-entry permit at sabi niyo gusto niyo nung pumunta doon ng 6 months lang, or sa mga kababayan natin na na-stuck ho sa Pilipinas because of the pandemic, and let's say nag-travel po kayo ng January or February until March, nagkaroon ng lockdown or quarantine sa Pilipinas, and then you're trying to come back ngayon. So lumalabas ilang buwan na yun, more than 6 months na po yan. So once you come back, right, syempre tatanungin kayo bakit ngayon lang ulit, bakit ngayon lang. Syempre alam natin it's a pandemic, but immigration officers at the port of entry ho, no, at they are free to ask questions. Sino bang nasa Amerika?
Mhm.
Right? Meron ka na bang trabaho? Na-stuck ka ba lang ba talaga doon? Or even without the pandemic, these questions will arise, especially if you stay there for over 6 months. So you should be ready to provide na, ito yung aking driver's license. I'm driving in the US. Nandun yung anak ko sa Las Vegas, nagtatrabaho sa casino, nagtatrabaho sa Sunrise Hospital, meron po akong bangko sa Bank of America. You have to establish that you are maintaining that ties in the US to convince yung custom officer or the immigration officer wants to come back in the US.
Mhm. So not only during the application process, but when you actually come back, you have to tell them, hey, I have a house. I have a house in Las Vegas. O meron akong babalikang trabaho. So ganun pala yun. So
That's
you really
correct,
have
yeah.
to make sure you have all of those figured out. So attorney, sa mga hindi maiiwasang pagkakataon or dahilan, tumagal ka sa Pilipinas. So what are the options for returning to the US after a long presence abroad? Kung halimbawa wala kang re-entry permit, or even with a re-entry permit, do you need a special visa to come back?
Yes, let's say may mga kababayan natin na na-stuck doon for more than a year.
Mhm.
Kasi ang presumption, ang batas is that over a year ka na nasa outside the US, there's already a law that says you abandon your green card. So abandonment. Now, you can argue that you did not abandon your green card because of these circumstances. So ito yung tinatawag natin special immigrant visa, yung special immigrant visa. Let me see what is called
The
returning resident
returning
SB1.
resident.
Yeah,
Mhm.
returning resident SB1 visa. Pero sa kapakanan natin mga kababayan, importante alamin po natin ito kung ano yung mga factors, yung mga requirements para po kayo makapag-apply ng returning resident or SB1 visa. Unang-una is that you are a green card holder. Right? Number two, you departed with no intention to abandon your green card. So ipakita mo rin na may returning resident ako. I'm sorry, mayroon akong returning ticket.
Mhm.
Right? So nag-book ka ng January 1, babalik ka dapat na mga June or let's say end of May, before 6 months. And then you have to prove that the applicant's returning temporary trip which was extended beyond his control. Yung pag-stay niya sa Pilipinas is beyond his control. So a good idea itong pandemic kasi
Mhm.
hindi mo kontrolado to. So let's say babalik pa kayo, dumating ka na sa Pilipinas ng Marso, babalik ka ng April next year. That's over a year. So typically, ang mga kababayan natin and some advocates, even attorneys would say, gamitin mo yung green card mo, 10 years naman yan, di ba? So pwede ka pang bumalik. I caution my client and say, no, you should exercise caution because baka
Mhm.
di na lahat with all your belongings and everything, right? Only to find out the last minute na hindi ka pala i-fly ng Philippine Airlines or any airline companies because yung manifesto that was forwarded to the embassy, right? And the embassy people look at your records and say, hey, this person has already abandoned the green card. So ayaw mo yung kahihiyan that you will be escorted out of the airport dahil hindi ka pwedeng mag-fly. So what my suggestion sa mga kababayan natin na nag-overstay overstay sa Pilipinas ng 1 year, more than 1 year, is to apply this returning resident visa. So you have to apply that at the embassy with a minimal fee, saying that I'm a green card holder, I have a return ticket pero hindi ako nakabalik dahil nabagyo kami, right? Classic example ko yun kay Yolanda, where my client
Yeah.
stayed there for over 2 years, right? Yung Yolanda, yung super typhoon.
Yep.
Or pwede mo sabihin nagkasakit ako, and I went to the hospital. These are my medical bills, or proof of medical uh, medical doctor's certification, mga ganon. So, i-provide mo lahat yon, and also you intend to come back, and also the ties, hindi ako magtatagal sa Pilipinas dahil nandun na lahat ang aking pamilya. In fact, bumili na kami ng bahay, may business ng anak ko doon ng care home, and I'm helping with the business, etc. So, wala kang intention to abandon. Now, I have seen many clients where dahil sa katandaan, ayaw na nila sa Amerika because it's too cold or too hot, or wala dito yung kanilang mga amiga,
Amiga, yeah.
na kakwentuhan. So bored sila, despite the presence of PHLV radio or TFC, or but so when they leave, right, and then they realize, pinetition nyo pala yung isa sa mga anak nila na nag-age out, right, and they stay there for over 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and then naging karet yung priority date, pinadala ng sulat and say, your visa is about to be processed and you have to pay na for the fees. So, pwede bang bumalik yung nanay ko dito? Sabi ko, ano bang dahilan? Yun na nga, ayaw nga niya dito dahil mainit, wala siyang kachismisan. Mas ano siya doon dahil may makasama sa bahay, mga ganong dahilan. Sabi ko, those are not good reasons, right? Sabi ko, kung may magandang dahilan, namatay yung asawa, halimbawa, or siyempre they have to, maraming properties, may mga probate, mga ganyan sa court, you can justify that. Personally, yung mga clients ko na na-handle yung 3 years to 4 years, pwede pa natin bawiin yung kanilang green card and convince the embassy na hindi na-abandon yung green card. But even with 2 years, Kuya Yo, mahirap yun kung wala po tayong dahilan. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng gumawa ng kwento lang, right, na aksidente ako, na hospital ako, kung wala kang medical records. It should be a valid reason why you stayed there. So there's always that SB visa or returning resident visa. Now, there's another way, yung sinasabi natin exemption, na if you are a US government official, right, para hindi ma-break yung continuous presence mo, right, if you are probably a diplomat, right, asawa ka ng diplomat, or you joined the diplomatic corps and you were assigned to other countries, you can request for the exception for the absence ng for purposes of physical presence requirement. So, but as I said, kung hindi po kayo government official, there's no way that you can file an exception. The only other way, of course, is the re-entry permit.
Mhm. Wow. So talagang katulad yan ang nabanggit namin ni attorney kanina, ngayon ay nabaliktad na ngayon. Kung ikaw ay mag-overstay sa Pilipinas na. Hindi na dito sa Amerika. Baliktad na ngayon, mga kababayan. But of course, for some of us who will do that, nag-overstay sa Pilipinas and all those kind of things, itong abandonment charges na ito, na ikaw ayaw mo na pala yata ng green card mo. What types of situations, attorney, na nare-realize ito ng mga tao, or na bigla na lang lumalabas ito pag nag-apply ka ba ng citizenship? Tsaka mo makikita na ito, may abandonment ka na pala ng hindi ka na pwede mag-citizen. So what are the situations where bigla nilang makikita na meron ka palang inabandon mo na pala yung green card?
Yung unang-una ko yung when you're coming back to the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, makita natin na over 1 year ka na pala, or 8 months ka sa Pilipinas, and then once you come back and you undergo what we call secondary inspection, di ba? Like tinawag ka isang kwarto and there are many questions ng officer sa iyo. And then doon ako sa Pilipinas, may trabaho ako doon. Ano pa ako doon? Doctor pa ako sa Pilipinas, meron akong medical may hospital po ako doon, or meron akong clinic, stuff like that. If that admission, of course, yung residence mo, that's an implied, proof that you already abandoned the green card. So yun doon nila nakikita. Or yung sinabi natin na pinetition mo yung kamag-anak mo, nakita nila na the residence, because once the petition is available, the petitioner should submit the affidavit support, di ba? So, and then you have to list yung addresses. So pag nilista mo Pilipinas yun, doon nakikita na nasa Pilipinas na pala sila for a very long time. And also there's a question yung domicile, kung saan ba nakatira, anong residence ng petitioner. Dapat ilista nyo doon kung Pilipinas or the United States. And also lastly, makikita rin yan kung magpa-file siya ng citizenship, kasi you have to list all the travels outside the US for 5 years. Although limited po yung list sa citizenship na 5 years lang, the consular officer will ask you, have you had any travel outside the US for over 6 months while being a green card holder? So let's say 10 years po kayong green card holder na, ang requirement lang yung listahan ng residency is 5 years, but the consular officer will also ask yung travel po ninyo while you are a green card holder. 10 years pa kayo, 15 years pa kayo, lahat yan tatanungin.
Wow, so you should keep tabs of all your travel pala, no, attorney. Dapat meron kang record ng lahat ng paglabas at pagpasok nyo dito sa Amerika. So obviously, you can either take action or just accept your fate na na-abandon mo na yan. But first, say you want to just give it up. Okay, sige, na-abandon ko na. How do you do that, attorney? You just surrender your green card or something?
I actually, kung gusto nila i-keep yung green card nila and there's no other way to immigrate, in the future, I would suggest na i-fight yung kanilang green card. Either fight in court or before the USCIS, kasi pwede ka nila, kung nandito kayo and then you want to fight your case, they will refer you to an immigration judge and fight for that. That's generally my recommendation. Lalong-lalo na Kuya Yo, kung nag-petition po sa inyo is kapatid ninyo and you waited for like 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And then wala kayong kamag-anak na iba dito, wala kayong anak, walang immediate available na visa. In other words, may meron ka pang kapatid na citizen, but that would take another 20 years kung inabandon mo yung green card mo. So if you're going to abandon, pwede nyo i-submit huyaan sa port of entry. Usually yan, yung mga pinipilit Kuya Yo, dyan sa secondary inspection, papipirmahin ka na lang. And I've seen many many prospective clients, after the fact, where they were told to sign, the surrender mo na yung green card mo. So usually yun ang ginagawa sa CBP or the port of entry or sa embassy mismo, Kuya Yo. Pwede rin i-surrender yan sa embassy. So usual scenario is that where the green card holder stayed sa Pilipinas for 5 years na, 10 years na, let's say, or let's 5 years, 7 years, valid pa yung green card nila. And when they apply for a tourist visa to visit their relatives dito, dinideny kasi sasabing green card ka, right? Kasi nasa system. So what I tell my clients is that you can surrender your green card and tell them that I don't need the green card. My life in the Philippines is a lot better than the US. Mayroon akong business dito. Gusto ko lang mamasyal, pasyalan ko lang yung mga anak ko or mga apo ko sa Amerika. That's the only purpose. Hindi ako nakapagtagal doon. So surrender first your green card at the consulate or embassy and then apply for a tourist visa. That's how you do it. And that's the way you abandon your green card. If you are 1,000% sure that you really do not want the green card anymore.
So, attorney, yung say for example, you surrender your visa sa embassy sa Pilipinas and then you apply for a tourist visa dahil katulad ng sinabi nyo, may gusto mo pa rin pumasyal but you don't want to stay there permanently anymore. What are the chances ng mabigyan ka ng tourist visa? Siguro naman mataas, inabandon mo na nga yung permanent, ano?
Yeah, it's a really high chance. You still have to prove yung ties mo rin sa Pilipinas. Babalik na naman tayo
Baliktad
sa
na naman.
Right? So, but you can also say that, you can also convince them that you really don't want the green card because of the weather, where your family resides in the US, and you can show that your life is comfortable back home, right? You have, substantial savings to support yourself, or a business. Na pakita mo hindi ka mag-overstay, especially kung wala naman kayong history ng overstay in the past. I think there's a great chance that your tourist visa will be approved.
Okay. So, if you are there in the Philippines, say ganitong panahon, you got stuck there because of the pandemic or maybe any other reason, and meron kang trabaho dito, may business ka dito sa Amerika, I'm just wondering about the tax implications sa iyo. Most likely, of course, you still have to pay for your taxes here in the United States, right?
Correct. Yes. We strongly encourage sa mga kababayan natin similarly situated to consult a tax attorney to discuss these issues because yung income where you derive your income, usually you pay taxes, right? And at the same time, sa Pilipinas, I think there's also a reciprocity where if you already paid the income tax where it earned, maybe there's an exception to where you are currently resides, like kagaya ng Pilipinas. But again, we are not expert in tax law, so we do strongly encourage yung mga kababayan natin if confronted with similar case to consult a tax attorney.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, mga kaibigan, pinag-uusapan po natin ngayon sa immigration law on your side, safeguarding lawful permanent resident status or your green card during foreign travel, especially kung mag-overstay kayo sa Pilipinas, baliktad naman. So, mga kaibigan, you are tuned in to Immigration Law on Your Side. We're in the middle of the program right now. We'll head over to a break to remind you about Reeves Immigration Law Group. When we come back, unless attorney, meron pa kayong gustong i-dagdag dito sa ating pinag-uusapan regarding safeguarding the green card?
Yes, very kuya, very basic itong safeguarding green card. If you really know that you're going to stay in your home country, right, for a very long time, apply for a re-entry permit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think that kailan yung pabalik-balik. Kasi ibang kababayan natin, Kuya Yu, is they try to come back before 6 months, di ba? So, or before 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes is very difficult. Tulad ng pandemic na to na hindi mo maiwasan na sa Pilipinas ka na ng 8 months tapos nagkaroon ng pandemic. So that's going to be another 6 months. So over 1 year na po kayo. So I still strongly recommend with a minimal fee for the filing ng re-entry permit para ma-safeguard po natin yung inyong green card.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, mga kaibigan, patuloy po kayong nakikinig sa PHLV Radio sa ating Immigration Law on Your Side. Magbabalik po kami ni attorney at pag-usapan naman natin itong October Visa Bulletin. Katulad po ng nasabi ko kanina, medyo exciting ang balitang ito. So, tumutok lamang po, dyan lang po kayo sa ating Immigration Law on Your Side. Magbabalik po kami.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has been representing immigrants for nearly 40 years. Reeves Immigration Law Group has been fighting for its clients through experience and expertise. With immigration lawyers you can access at reasonable fees even on Saturday. Payment plans are also available. Call us for your immigration solutions. We can do worldwide telephone and Skype consultations. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009. Reeves Immigration Law Group has offices in Los Angeles, San Francisco, China, and Philippines. See us at www.rreeves.com. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009.
Mga kaibigan, welcome back to Immigration Law on Your Side on PHLV Radio. We are here every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, and that's 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and 10 a.m. naman po ng Thursday morning dyan sa Pilipinas. And maraming salamat po sa pakikinig nyo dyan sa Pilipinas. Thank you so much sa lahat ng mga listeners natin dyan sa Pilipinas. And I'm sure, inaabangan nyo mga kaibigan itong October Visa Bulletin, and nauna nang naibigay ni attorney ang mga information regarding dito. Attorney, ano po ang latest sa ating October Visa Bulletin?
It's really a great news for the EB3. Ito yung professional workers or that includes also the skilled and unskilled workers. EB3 and EB3 other workers. So ibig sabihin ito yung mga nurses, physical therapists, doctors, yung mga professionals. Yung skilled, unskilled, kasama din dyan, mga caregivers, carpenters, office workers, etc. So current po siya for the month of October.
Wow.
Now, if you remember, Kuya Yo, naging current din siya noong April of last year, right? And na-extend siya until December. But January until September, nag-retrogress po siya ng about 1 year, 2 years, I think umabot pa ng 3 years. So it's really bayan natin, right? So if client na nabugbog po tayo ng email and calls because they're waiting for the priority date and we tell them, yeah, it's okay. to file now in October kasi current na po yan. Now, that's really a good news sa mga kababayan natin na hindi pa umaaksyon na magpa-petition or pe-petitionin kung may mga employers po kayo, do it now. Kasi kahit gusto nyong gawin ngayon, you cannot file the petition and the green card at the same time because there's a what we call the initial step, lalo sa mga magle-labor certification na kailangan test ang US market. May processing time na about 1 year yan. So, by the time na ma-approve yung labor certification ninyo, baka iba na naman ang visa bulletin. So, it's really very important. Inaabangan po lahat ng immigration advocates at mga applicants, mga petitioners, ang visa bulletin, especially October. Kasi, Kuya, dito nag-uumpisa yung fiscal year. So, it will start October 1 for the fiscal year of 2021 until end of September of next year. So, ang nangyayari yan, Kuya, is that kaya nagiging current just because yung mga unused visas for the last fiscal year na hindi nagamit, i-add sa employment base. So doon nagkakaroon ng dahilan bakit nagkaroon ng current ang visa bulletin na yon. So if you remember, maraming family base ang hindi na process because number one of the COVID, right? Hindi nakarating dito yung mga dapat dumating na family base. Pangalawa, there's also a travel ban or suspension of the entry of immigrants by President Trump until the end of December. So essentially, yung family allotted sa family base na 150,000, about 150,000 na unused, yung dinagamit will be added to the employment base or to the other visa category kaya nagkakaroon ng current ang priority date. So it's really a very good news. Now, sa mga naghihintay sa Pilipinas, right, if you are a medical practitioner or nasa medical field po kayo, registered nurse, physical therapist, or any kind of profession in the medical field, pwede po kayong humingi ng exception. Kuya, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead, attorney.
Okay, so pwede po kayong humingi ng exception doon sa suspension of entry of immigrant ni President Trump's na proclamation, because you can also come here, right, to work on the medical field. That's one of the exceptions. So yun po ang natin, pero kung hindi po kayo kasama doon sa medical profession or professionals, maghintay po tayo until December 31. Doon pa lang magiging mag-open ang US Embassy or mag-interview ng mga aplikante sa mga immigrant visas.
Mm-hmm. So magandang balita yan, isa sa magandang balita na ipapaabot namin sa inyo ngayong gabi sa Immigration Law on Your Side. And of course, meron pa tayong ibang malaking balita, and over the past few months, isa ito sa mga pinag-uusapan namin ni Attorney Diza dito sa Immigration Law on Your Side. Ito ang pagtataas ng presyo ng ilan sa mga application sa USCIS. Pero merong magandang balita si Attorney. Attorney, ano po ang nangyari? Supposedly October 2 na ang simula ng pagtaas ng presyo.
That's true. In fact, mga staff namin kasama ako ay hindi na natutulog sa kare-review ng file. Kagagawa ng file, pagpapacket and everything. So everybody was going crazy last minute until I think yesterday, since actually last week, kasi we imposed sa mga staff namin to file this as soon as you can. Right? We don't have to file it the last minute kasi ang last minute natin supposedly is tomorrow, di ba? Kasi ang October 2 ang deadline. So everybody was really working hard to beat the deadline kasi sayang din naman, tulad ng nabanggit natin na application for citizenship or naturalization is 750 lang ngayon, but they were proposing na sana after October 2 is 1,300 something, an increase of 500. So hindi lang yan, maraming applications din kagaya na adjustment of status. Dati pag nag-file ka ng green card, kasama na dun yung work authorization and advance parole dun sa fee. But after October 2, magkahiwalay. So instead na you pay only 1,225 plus after October 2 is magbabayad ng work authorization fee, magbabayad ka na advance parole fee. So that's another 2,000, another 1,000 rather.
Wow.
So that's really a good news kasi nagkaroon po tayo ng injunction, ibig sabihin in-stop ng federal judge ng California ng implementation ng fee increase. So we can take a deep breath now, right? Because there's that injunction. So the government would try to go to the Ninth Circuit and say, stop nyo itong injunction. But of course, hindi natin alam kung this will be done right away or, or yung decision. We don't know that's when gonna be. Although ang guarantee lang natin sa inyo is that hindi pa ngayon, right? So ang continuous advice natin sa mga kababayan natin is that if you're eligible to file for an immigration benefits, kagaya ng citizenship, naturalization, or filing a petition for a family member, do it now because hindi natin alam kung kailan ulit itong fee increase.
Ayan, kaya mga kaibigan, manatiling nakatutok sa ating immigration law on your side. And also, subscribe and follow and like the Facebook pages po ng Reeves Immigration Law Group and ng PHLV Radio because si attorney po ay he posts all of those updates almost immediately sa kanyang page na FJ U.S. Immigration Attorney and also at Reeves Immigration Law Group's Facebook page. And ganun din po sa PHLV Radio. So manatili pong nakatutok para malaman natin kung ano ang mga updates na ito. So anyway, Attorney, napakagandang balita yan. And dahil syempre, ang mga kababayan natin, malaking bagay din yan. Especially those sa mga mag-a-apply na ng kanilang mga citizenship. At kung alam mo naman tayo na mga Pilipino, minsan 5 ang anak. So, o 6 o more than pa. Kaya medyo malaking tulong yon na hindi mo na implemented ang pag-increase ng presyo. So, Attorney, before we go, kumustahin natin ang ating Reeves Immigration Law Group out there in California and also syempre sa Pilipinas and sa China. Kumusta po ang ating ang opisina? At pwede pa rin po ba silang tumawag and magkumonsulta sa inyo? Through Zoom pa rin po ba tayo ngayon?
Yes, through Zoom tayo. Wala pa tayong in-person consultation or conference sa mga client natin. Through Zoom po tayo or telephone.
Mm-hmm.
We continue to observe yung CDC guidelines that, yung gradual reopening ng opisina namin, it's about 30% ng capacity ang pumapasok just to make sure that we are complying with the local laws and CDC guidelines. We still offer free legal consultation, immigration consultation sa mga kababayan natin. We can do it by Zoom and you can speak to one of our immigration attorneys. Most of us are immigration law specialists. We have an office in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, and Manila, and China. Ang USCIS, they also gradually reopen. I went to Sacramento yesterday and yung dating siguro mga 100 capacity, Kuya Yo, there are only 10 of us, on that particular time, mga 2 hours time frame. So they're also observing social distancing and yung capacity is very limited. But the application ng benefits, tuloy-tuloy po yan, at wag po ninyong stop kasi at least you are already in line, kung sakaling mag-reopen ang in-person interviews sa USCIS or sa US Embassy. At having said that, Kuya Yo, sa mga kababayan natin at mga listeners and viewers natin, keep on listening and watching our radio program and through our Facebook too. At lahat ng mga programa ng PHLV Radio, we try to update you with the relevant immigration updates. Sana po makatulong sa inyo. And if you have specific questions, as I said, we offer free consultation. You can email Kuya Yo or message us through Facebook Live. And it's always a pleasure to be here, Kuya Yo. Maraming salamat at happy first day of the month tomorrow.
October na.
October na naman.
And palapit na ng palapit ang Pasko. So, advance Merry Christmas sa inyo. Pero Happy Halloween muna. And of course, Thanksgiving. All right. So, Attorney, maraming salamat again for the information. I'm sure ang mga kababayan natin and all those tuned in to us, they appreciate the information, especially the updates. So, thank you again. And we will see you next time on PHLV Radio. Attorney, ingat po kayo dyan sa California.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat mga kaibigan. This has been another episode of Immigration Law on Your Side, brought to you by our friends from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Again, their website is www.revsimmigration.com. rreeves.com, and you can call them up at their toll-free number 1-800-795-8009 for more information. And katulad ng nasabi ni attorney, may free consultation pa sila ngayon, and because of the pandemic, malaking tulong po ito sa ating lahat. So maraming salamat po, Reeves Immigration Law Group. From the PHLV Radio Studios at Maryland Parkway here in Las Vegas, Nevada, ito po si Kuya Yo, kasama si Attorney Flomi Diza ng Reeves Immigration Law Group. We will see you next time on Immigration Law on Your Side.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has just brought you Immigration Law on Your Side. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific on PHLV Radio.